morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchable News. It's Thursday, June 25th, 2026. Let's get in the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, inside the Trump Senate Republican lunch. Number two, news, what Todd Blanche is telling senators about the anti-weaponization fund. And number three, Speaker Mike Johnson needs to pull it together once again. All right, Jake, I am happy to be back.
Good to have you. We had some good. We had some good fill-ins. People got to hear from Anthony. They got to hear from Max. It was a welcome crew of people.
Well, huge thank you to the Punchable News team who has been filling in for me. I have been on the road a bunch, but never fear, I'm back. All of July, Jake, I'm going to be with you on the podcast. Get excited, folks.
I feared.
All right, let's get to it. The top story this morning we are leading Punchable News AM with is a look at how things have really dramatically shifted. You know, if you go back a year ago, you had President Donald Trump celebrating the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, a $3.4 trillion mega bill. This was supposed to be the signature piece of legislation to push Republicans over the top in the midterms. But man, flash forward to today, and Trump is openly warring with GOP senators. The news yesterday that he had decided to not sign the massive housing bill that had been negotiated so carefully, was supposed to be a bipartisan win, really focused on affordability ahead of the midterm, all over the Save America Act. And things came to a head at the Senate Republican lunch with Trump on Capitol Hill.
What a waste of time this lunch was. It was a wasted opportunity for the Senate Republicans. It was a wasted opportunity for Trump. And it struck me that they left this thing probably in a worse spot than they entered. For Thune, and we kind of wrote this over the last couple of days, the goal would have been listen, let me preface it with this before I go down this rabbit hole. Trump is who he is, right? He wants fights. He wants fights. He wants to yell at Cassidy and all this stuff, and Bill Cassidy for voting for the War Powers resolution. But for the Senate Republicans, they could have used this opportunity to say, listen, man, we can't pass Save America. We don't have the votes. Here's why. There are rural members who are against this. There are people who are against that. But here's what we can get you. We could get you voter ID. We could get you this. We could get you that. They didn't do that. Trump, I don't know what he could have done, but whatever. He just yelled at Cassidy. So it does seem to me that this was a massive wasted opportunity, and the relationship between the two is worse than it was going in. Although he had Cassidy at the White House for a briefing on Iran, but he was angry at Cassidy because Cassidy voted for the War Powers resolution, because Cassidy doesn't feel like he has any idea what Trump is doing in Iran, right? Why does he feel like he has no idea what Trump is doing in Iran, Anna? Because the Trump administration has not briefed senators. So they are free agents, just like on everything else. So now he gets a briefing, he goes back and he flips his vote, and the Senate reverses and defeats a War Powers resolution. If Trump just did things a little bit more normally, like he had his administration on the Hill to brief Senate Republicans about this, and to senators about this, House members about this, he wouldn't have that many troubles. Instead, he doesn't brief them. They're pissed off at him. They vote for a War Powers resolution. He gets pissed off. He blows up this meeting. It's so stupid. It's stupid.
All right. I think I think there's two things that I think are important here, right? Which is, one, I thought it was very fascinating. This wasn't an invitation by Senate Majority Leader John Thune for the president to come here to kind of already be on the same page, to say, get on the Hill. We need you. You haven't been engaging. With your help, we can do X, Y, Z and really get your agenda passed. This was an invitation by Florida Republican Senator Scott, and was championed by Senator Lee, who's been a big advocate and proponent of the Save America Act. But it's not as though, there was some big strategy session, or that Trump had any big, okay, here, if you guys do X and I do Y, we're going to actually get this passed across the finish line. It was almost an airing of the grievances here, right? Where you have Trump frustrated because the Senate and Congress are not doing what he wants them to do. And just because he says so doesn't mean that it's going to change anything. And so I think there's the kind of interesting part to me is, one, to your point, nothing got accomplished here, right? It wasn't as though, okay, he engaged and now he's broken the log jam and Save America Act is going to become the rule of law. That's not happening out of this. Two, you have a lot of senators who I think are even more squarely in Thune's camp, to say, like, this is the guy, and Thune's not, but the idea that they did not utilize this at all to push back on Trump, I think just showcases how frayed, and the idea that most people don't think that Trump can be convinced here, right? But if you are Senate Republicans and you're looking at your majority and you're looking at the midterm election, having a fight about this when you could have gotten the win on the housing bill, when you could have figured out a way, you need to figure out a way forward on FISA. I mean, there's a lot to get done here. And we basically now have a Capitol Hill, and we'll talk about the House in a minute, but that is completely at a stalemate. And it's in all Republican Washington, Jake. This is not as if Democrats are even in the mix here.
Correct. All correct. God, I've said this for years with you. When it was Trump, Biden, especially Biden, and then Trump again. You have to work with the Congress you have, not the Congress you want. He doesn't have 60 votes for any of these things. He could put Democrats in a tough position and do a voter ID bill or put voter ID somehow in reconciliation, which would be tough, but I guess not impossible. Instead, he's just yelling and screaming and all this stuff, and he cancels the housing bill, something that his party and Democrats have worked on forever, something his administration has worked on forever. They had a huge signing ceremony set up in the Capitol.
Well, and to leave for the 4th of July with the wind in their sails a little bit for Republicans who've had a lot of fits and starts, a tough quarter, across the board, to say, like, hey, like, to go back to your district, to go back, every single member of Congress is going to be in at least one parade, over the 4th of July, and to be able to go back and say, like, I've heard you. We're doing the work. We know that there needs to be more inventory when it comes to housing. We know that you need help. And now they just come back and they say, yeah, Washington is just as dysfunctional as ever. We aren't getting anything done.
And Anna, I said this yesterday, and I think it's very true. Trump now seems like he's just not going to sign housing. I mean, he was pissed off about the housing bill because of SAVE. He said, well, SAVE is more important and the housing bill is a minor thing compared to SAVE and blah, blah, blah. But yesterday in the Oval, when he was meeting with the NATO Secretary General, he seemed to say that he actually has policy problems with the housing bill. Like, it makes existing homeowners, their houses worth less. So to me, it seems like he actually has policy problems with this bill. Someone has gotten to him, or he has changed his mind on the policy in this bill. Like, it wouldn't totally shock me if he just vetoes this thing. And everyone is talking about, well, they could override a veto. They passed it with veto-proof majorities. You show me the Republicans who are going to vote to override a presidential veto.
The politics change very quickly once
it's going to
the
be very
president,
different.
if he does come out, to your point, and tries to veto it, and then you're really in a staring match between the White House and Congress. And certainly Republicans have shown that they're willing to blink and kind of, at least over the past couple of years, do what the president wants. All right, Jake, let's move on to the number 2 story of the morning. We've got some news this morning. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has told several GOP senators in private meetings that he's willing to take formal action to kill the $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, according to multiple sources familiar with the conversations. This is big news because, of course, Blanche has met some skepticism by senators about getting him confirmed. And as he's making this is one of the concessions, right? That you have a lot of Republican senators who are opposed to this, and not just opposed to say, hey, you said you're not going to do it, but actually want something codified here.
And it would make sense, Anna, for them to do that, because this is the way he's going to get confirmed. And if they don't intend to do this weaponization fund, truly don't intend to do this, then they might as well put it in writing and say it. But a great scoop from Laura, Lisa Murkowski, said that she raised the need for a formal end to the weaponization fund during her meeting with Blanche. I mentioned that. I thought it was going to be important to have something formalized, and Blanche indicated that they were working on that. Blanche did say this, of course, during testimony. He has said it publicly. The administration has said it publicly, meaning the Justice Department has said it publicly. But this would go a long way in getting some of the Blanche skeptics comfortable with him. I will say, as Laura and others on our team have reported, Andrew, Blanche's confirmation process, his prospects look pretty good. And that's a big sea change based on where they were, I don't know, a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago. I didn't think he was going to get confirmed. Now I do think, you never know, but I do think it looks like he's going to get confirmed.
All right, let's go to the number 3 story of the morning. Speaker Johnson, he's got a tough job. He's trying to put the House back together again. It has been a disastrous week here for the Speaker, as Anna Paulina Luna has basically ground the House to a halt.
The lead of this item, which I wrote with Luke Meyer and our team, is that sometimes the word train wreck doesn't suffice. Mike Johnson is heading back to the White House today because the House floor is completely closed after Anna Paulina Luna, the Florida Republican, said she will block any rule from going onto the floor because of the Save America Act. The Save America Act, of course, is that voter ID bill we talked about at the top of the podcast. She says she'll vote against the rule because the Save America Act is not moving in the Senate. Voting against stuff in the House doesn't help things in the Senate, but whatever. And the big problem, Anna, is that if they don't get a rule, they can't do anything. They are limited to suspension bills, which are bipartisan bills, usually small bore bills that they can only pass Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. That means Thursdays and Fridays are dead. Johnson's going to the White House today at 2 p.m. So this morning is going to kind of be very chill. No House votes, it doesn't seem like, unless they try to pass the rule once again. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Could Anna Paulina Luna be bought off? I don't know. I guess she could be, but she says she's not going to be. But maybe they say, okay, we're gonna put Save and Reconciliation. We're gonna fight for it. Don't hold up the floor for this because it's screwing everything else up. They had this week. They had 2 spending bills scheduled for the floor. They can't pass that. Next week, they wanted to do a bunch of other things. They can't do that. So, Anna, it's a mess. And I'll tell you another mess that's coming up. The border bill that with Chip Roy was promised by Mike Johnson. That legislation was supposed to come up before July 4th. And I don't know if it's not, but we've not heard anything about it. And Chip Roy is not happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important here is when you make promises as the speaker, right, whether it's Chip Roy or whatever he has to do, Luna's saying, she wants a written plan to pass SAVE, would have to confer with her other colleagues about whether a written promise to pass the bill would be enough. If he makes promises and doesn't deliver on them, things get really, really tough really quickly. And we'll have to see what Chip Roy does if he doesn't get this vote before the July recess. I mean, if he votes against rules, Jake, all of a sudden, I mean, you got more than one problem to basically halt all things on the House side of Capitol Hill.
Yep.
One last thing, Jake. Finally, later this morning, our Tech Quarterly Edition will go out to all Punchbowl News readers. For this edition, our tech team talked to the AFL-CIO's Liz Schuler about AI policy and how the union is trying to influence the debate and what it has planned for the midterms. Really important person to be and kind of key figure. We've talked so much about the big tech companies, the AI companies and what they're doing and their fights here in Washington, but the unions also going to be playing a big role. And here's an interesting tidbit. Schuler isn't on board with the push from progressives like Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to ban data centers. Schuler's group includes members who could get jobs building those facilities, making it a tricky issue for the AFL-CIO. Take a listen to this snippet from the interview.
Yeah, I think our friends who are saying we should stop building data centers until we achieve the AI guardrails, we understand, where they're coming from. I'm sure they have the very best of intentions. But I think that, trying to link these two, again, creates a vulnerability because this technology is going to move forward. The data centers that power it is going to move forward. And so it would essentially just encourage the shipping of these jobs overseas and our information overseas. It would disregard community impact and environmental protections, in other parts of the world. And we've seen forced labor being injected into the conversation. So they're going to be built. We just think that we should be building the future together and do it in a safe and responsible way that creates high road jobs here.
All right, Jake, we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you like the Daily Punch, share it on social media. Tell your friends. It's the best way to find out about us. And, of course, you can go deeper on all things Punchbowl News at punchbowl.news. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.